I don't talk much, sir, but I can cook. The human shrugged and said, "Works for me." Thomas Clark squinted against the harsh sunlight as he stepped off the transport shuttle onto the dusty landing pad of Helios Station. The Frontier Outpost, little more than a collection of concrete structures and metal shacks, shimmered in the heat of the alien planet's midday sun. He adjusted the worn duffel bag slung over his shoulder and took a deep breath of the hot, dry air. "Welcome to Helios, human," croaked the reptilian port official, barely glancing up from his datapad. "Purpose of visit?" "Looking for work," Thomas replied, his voice low and gravelly from disuse. "Heard there might be opportunities out here." The official snorted. "Opportunities?" "Sure, if you call backbreaking labor for minimal credits an opportunity." He stamped Thomas's documentation and waved him through. "Good luck, Earthman. You'll need it." Thomas nodded and moved on, his military boots leaving distinct prints in the dust. At 42, his face was weathered, with lines etched around his steel blue eyes that had seen too much. His light brown hair was cut short and practical, and his muscular frame spoke of years of hard physical work and combat training. The jacket he wore, reinforced at the shoulders and worn at the elbows, had seen better days, but like its owner, it was functional and resilient. He made his way through the settlement, taking in the sights and sounds of this remote corner of the galaxy. Aliens of various species haggled at market stalls, security drones hovered overhead, and the occasional military patrol passed by, eyeing newcomers with suspicion. Thomas kept his head down. He'd had enough of fighting in his life, first as a Marine, then as a mercenary. After his wife's death 3 years ago, he'd decided it was time for a change, for both himself and his son. Speaking of which, he needed to find suitable accommodations before bringing the boy down from the orbital station where he'd left him with their meager belongings. As he turned down a narrow street lined with shops, a commotion caught his attention. Outside a small provision store, 3 bulky Drakari merchants, scaled humanoids with ridged foreheads and powerful builds, were shouting at a small figure cowering against the wall. "Filthy little thief," one of them bellowed, grabbing the figure by the arm and yanking hard. "Think you can steal from us?" Thomas stopped, watching as they dragged what appeared to be a young humanoid alien into the harsh sunlight. She was thin, too thin, with soft blue skin covered in a layer of road dust. Her large, deep blue eyes were wide with fear as she struggled weakly against her captors. She wore a simple gray-green jumpsuit that hung loosely on her frame, a light brown apron tied around her waist, and a beige cloth wrapped around her head. "I'm sorry," she stammered, her voice barely audible. "I was hungry." "Hungry?" The merchant laughed cruelly. "Then find work or starve. That's how it goes here." He shoved her hard, sending her sprawling into the dirt. The small package of food she'd apparently tried to take skittered across the ground. Thomas had seen enough. Without conscious thought, he found himself moving forward, stepping between the fallen girl and the angry merchants. "Problem here?" he asked quietly, his stance relaxed but ready. The lead Drakari drew himself up to his full height, a good head taller than Thomas, and bared his sharp teeth. "None of your business, human. The little Nillian tried to steal from us. We're just teaching her a lesson." Thomas glanced down at the girl who was looking up at him with those enormous blue eyes, confusion and fear evident in them. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a handful of credit chips. "This cover what she took?" The merchant's eyes narrowed, then flicked to the credits. "Plus a bit for our trouble." Thomas tossed the chips to him. "Consider the trouble paid for." "We're done here." For a moment it seemed like the Drakari might argue, but something in Thomas's steady gaze made him reconsider. With a grunt, he pocketed the credits and jerked his head toward his companions. They retreated into their shop, muttering among themselves. Thomas turned and extended a hand to the girl, who flinched slightly before accepting it. He helped her to her feet and retrieved the small package of food, handing it to her. "Thank you," she whispered, clutching the package to her chest. Her eyes darted nervously around, as if expecting another attack. "You got somewhere to go?" Thomas asked. She shook her head, looking down at her worn boots. "Anyone looking for you?" "Family?" Another head shake. Thomas sighed. He hadn't planned on picking up strays, but he couldn't just leave her here. "Can you do anything?" "Any skills?" The girl hesitated, then looked up at him. "I don't talk much, sir," she said softly, "but I can cook." Thomas studied her for a moment, then shrugged. Works for me. He gestured for her to follow him, and after a moment's hesitation, she fell into step beside him. They walked in silence through the dusty streets, the girl keeping close to his side, as if afraid he might disappear. Name's Thomas, he said eventually. Thomas Clark. Lena, she replied, her voice so quiet he almost missed it. My name is Lena. Thomas nodded and they continued their search for lodging. By sunset, he'd secured a modest concrete extension attached to a larger complex, 2 small bedrooms, a common area, and a tiny kitchen. It wasn't much, but it was clean and secure, with solid walls and a door that locked. As Lena tentatively explored the kitchen, examining the basic cooking equipment with careful hands, Thomas sent a message to his son. Tomorrow he'd bring Alex down from the orbital station, and they'd start their new life here. It wasn't what he'd planned, but plans had a way of changing. He watched as Lena began to organize the kitchen space, moving with quiet efficiency despite her obvious exhaustion. There was something about her, a resilience beneath the fragility, that reminded him of someone. Perhaps that's why he'd stepped in, or perhaps he was just tired of watching the strong prey on the weak. Either way, what was done was done. They'd figure out the rest tomorrow. The orbital shuttle docked with a metallic clang that echoed through the passenger compartment. Alex Clark looked up from his handheld game, his expression a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. At 14, he was tall for his age, with his father's steel blue eyes but his mother's darker hair and slender build. We're here, kid, the pilot called back. Your old man should be waiting at the terminal. Alex nodded, gathering his backpack and the small case containing his mother's photographs, the only real mementos he had of her. The rest of their belongings would follow on a cargo transport. Not that they had much. Mercenary life didn't allow for collecting possessions. Thanks, he mumbled, making his way to the exit. The station was smaller than he'd expected, with worn metal floors and flickering lights. A handful of beings from various species milled about, but Alex spotted his father immediately. Thomas stood apart from the crowd, his broad shoulders and alert posture marking him as different from the station's regular inhabitants. Hey, Dad, Alex said as he approached. Thomas's stern face softened slightly. He clasped his son's shoulder, a gesture that had replaced hugs somewhere around Alex's 12th birthday. Good flight? It was fine. Pilot said some solar flares might delay the cargo shuttle. Thomas nodded. We'll manage. Got us a place. It's not much, but it's a start. They made their way through the station to the surface transport, Thomas filling Alex in on the basics of Helios Station, the local economy, the major species, the areas to avoid. Alex listened with half an ear, a skill he'd developed during their frequent relocations. There's something else, Thomas said as they approached the settlement. We've got someone staying with us. Temporarily. Alex raised an eyebrow. Someone? Girl? Alien, Nelian. Name's Lena. She was in trouble, and I stepped in. Thomas kept his eyes on the path ahead. She's about your age. Doesn't talk much, but she cooks. You took in a stray? Alex couldn't hide his surprise. His father wasn't known for impulsive charity. Thomas shrugged. She needed help. We could use the help, simple as that. Alex knew better than to argue. When they reached their new home, a plain concrete structure with minimal furnishings, he followed his father inside, taking in the sparse living area and narrow hallway, leading to what he assumed were bedrooms. From the kitchen came soft sounds of movement, and then she appeared, a slender, blue-skinned figure who froze at the sight of them. Alex stared, having never seen a Nelian up close before. Her large, deep blue eyes dominated her delicate face, and though the cloth wrapped around her head hid her hair, or lack thereof, as he'd heard Nelians were naturally bald, he could see the graceful curve of her neck and the slight point to her ears. Alex, this is Lena, Thomas said. Lena, my son, Alex. Lena's eyes darted between them, then settled on Alex. She gave a small, formal bow. Hello, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Hi, Alex replied, suddenly conscious of his travel-rumpled clothes and the awkwardness of the situation. An uncomfortable silence followed, broken by Thomas clearing his throat. Something smells good. Lena's posture relaxed slightly. I made soup. From local ingredients. I hope it's acceptable. I'm sure it's fine, Thomas said. Alex, get cleaned up. We'll eat in 10. Dinner was a quiet affair. The soup was surprisingly good, savory with unfamiliar spices that somehow worked together. Alex watched Lena covertly as they ate. She took small, precise bites and kept her eyes mostly on her bowl, though occasionally she would glance up at him when she thought he wasn't looking. "This is really good," Alex said, breaking the silence. "What's in it?" Lena looked startled at being addressed directly. "Root vegetables from the market and herbs that grow near the water recycling plant." She hesitated. "The protein is synthetic, but I added spices to improve the flavor." "Well, it worked," Alex said, offering a smile. "Way better than the ration packs Dad usually heats up." Thomas grunted, but there was a hint of amusement in his eyes. "Not all of us had your mother's touch in the kitchen." The mention of his mother created another brief silence. Alex saw Lena's curious glance, but appreciated that she didn't ask. After dinner, Lena insisted on cleaning up while Thomas showed Alex to his room, small but private, with a narrow bed and a desk built into the wall. "It's not much," Thomas said, "but it's stable. No more moving around every few months. You can finish school here, maybe even apply to the academy if you still want that." Alex nodded, unpacking his few possessions. "And Lena? How long is she staying?" Thomas leaned against the doorframe. "Haven't figured that out yet. She's got nowhere to go, and she's useful. We'll see." Later that night, unable to sleep in the unfamiliar room, Alex ventured to the kitchen for water. He found Lena there, meticulously organizing the small pantry. "Sorry," he said when she startled. "Didn't mean to sneak up on you." "It's okay," she replied, her voice a little stronger than before. "I'm not used to people." "Me neither, really," Alex admitted. "We moved around a lot. Easier not to get too friendly with anyone." Lena nodded as if she understood perfectly. "Your father is kind." Alex snorted softly. "That's not usually the first word people use for him." "He helped me when no one else would," she said simply. "That is kindness." There was something in her certainty that made Alex look at her more closely. "Where are you from, Lena?" Her eyes clouded. "Far away. It doesn't exist anymore." Before he could ask what she meant, she turned back to the pantry. "You should sleep. Your father said you start school orientation tomorrow." Alex recognized the deflection but didn't push. "Yeah, I should. Good night, Lena." "Good night, Alex." As he returned to his room, Alex realized he was actually looking forward to tomorrow. New planet, new school, new whatever Lena was, housemate, refugee, friend maybe? For the first time in years, he felt like he might be home. 2 weeks after their arrival on Helios, Thomas secured a position with the settlement's security contractor. The pay was decent, but the hours were long, and often during the night cycle when smugglers and raiders were most active along the planet's perimeter. "I'll be gone 3 nights a week," Thomas explained over breakfast, sliding a small communicator across the table to Alex. "Emergency channel is programmed in. Use it if you need to." Alex pocketed the device. "We'll be fine, Dad." Thomas nodded, then turned to Lena, who was quietly washing dishes at the sink. "There's extra credits on the household account for food and supplies." Lena turned, drying her hands on her apron. "I'll be careful with it," she promised. "I know you will." Thomas's expression softened almost imperceptibly. In the short time she'd been with them, Lena had proven herself not just a talented cook, but meticulous with resources, stretching credits further than Thomas thought possible while still producing meals that made their modest home feel like something more. That evening, as Thomas prepared for his first overnight shift, Alex watched his father check and recheck his gear, an old habit from his mercenary days. The security-issued pulse rifle was new, but the way Thomas handled it wasn't. "Remember school night," Thomas said, shouldering his pack. "Don't stay up too late." After he left, the apartment felt different, quieter but somehow less tense. Alex finished his homework in the common area, while Lena prepared a light dinner. They ate together at the small table, the silence between them gradually becoming comfortable rather than awkward. "Your father is very protective," Lena observed, her voice still soft but growing more confident with each passing day. Alex snorted. "That's one word for it." "You don't agree?" "No, he is. Just." Alex pushed his food around his plate. "Sometimes I think he forgets I'm not a little kid anymore." Lena tilted her head slightly. "On Nilia, children are considered adults when they can survive alone for one full seasonal cycle." Really? How long is that? About 2 Earth years. A shadow passed over her face. I became an adult very young. Alex sensed the pain behind her words. Is that why you left? Your planet, I mean. Lena set down her utensil, her large eyes focusing on something distant. I didn't leave. Nilia is gone. Gone? Like destroyed? She nodded once sharply. The Harvester Collective. They don't conquer planets. They consume them. Alex felt a chill despite the apartment's warmth. The whole planet. Resources first. Minerals, water, atmosphere, then organic matter. Her voice had gone flat, emotionless. My family sent me away on the last evacuation ship. It was chaotic. The ship was damaged. We crashed on a trading post 3 systems from here. I was the only survivor. Damn, Alex whispered. I'm sorry, Lena. She blinked, seeming to return to the present. It was 3 years ago. I've been moving from place to place since then. Working when I could, hiding when I couldn't. Until my dad found you. A small smile touched her lips. Until your father found me. Later that night, unable to sleep, Alex wandered into the common area to find Lena still awake, curled up on the worn couch with a data pad. What are you reading? He asked, dropping into the chair across from her. She hesitated, then turned the screen toward him. It displayed a human cookbook. I'm learning more Earth recipes. Your father mentioned missing something called pot roast. Alex laughed. Yeah, that was my mom's specialty. Dad tried to make it once after she died. Nearly burned down our quarters on the station. What happened to her? Your mother? Lena asked, then immediately looked down. I'm sorry. That's too personal. No, it's okay. Alex leaned back in his chair. She was a medic. There was an outbreak of Tarsian fever on a colony where we were stationed. She volunteered to help. The quarantine protocols failed. Lena's eyes widened. She died helping others. Yeah, Dad took it hard. Started taking more dangerous contracts, moving us around a lot. I think coming here is his way of trying to start over. They talked long into the night, about Earth, about Nilia, about the strange customs of the various species that inhabited Helios Station. Alex described his first days at the settlement school, where he was one of only 3 humans in his grade. Lena shared techniques for bargaining with the mercurial Drakari merchants at the market. It became a pattern on the nights Thomas worked. After dinner, they would talk, Lena gradually revealing more about herself and her culture. Alex learned that the cloth she wore around her head wasn't just to hide her baldness. It was a traditional Nilian mourning garment, worn to honor lost family. He told her about Earth traditions, showing her pictures of his mother in the home they'd had before becoming nomadic. One night, about a month into their new routine, Alex returned from school to find Lena unusually animated, her movements quick and excited as she prepared dinner. What's got you all worked up? He asked, dropping his school bag by the door. I have something to show you. She wiped her hands and led him to the small storage closet where she kept her few possessions. From a hidden compartment in her travel bag, she withdrew a small translucent cube that glowed with a soft blue light. What is it? Alex asked, fascinated. A memory crystal. From Nilia. She placed it in his palm. It contains recordings of our world. The landscapes, the cities, our music. Alex stared at the cube, understanding the significance of what she was sharing. Lena, thank you for showing me. I want you to see where I came from, she said simply. You've shown me your world through your stories. This is mine. That night, they sat side by side on the couch, the crystal projecting images of a world with twin moons and vast oceans of deep purple. Lena's voice grew stronger as she narrated, pointing out the floating cities and the mountain ranges where she'd grown up. When Thomas returned the next morning, he found them asleep on the couch, Alex's head tilted back against the cushions. Lena curled at the other end. Between them on the table sat the glowing crystal, still cycling through images of a world that no longer existed. The desert wind howled outside, pelting the reinforced windows with sand and grit. At 17, Alex had grown taller than his father, though not as broad in the shoulders. He stood at the kitchen counter, chopping vegetables for dinner, while Lena stirred something fragrant on the cooking unit. 3 years had changed them both. Alex's boyish features had sharpened, His voice deepened, his movements more assured. Lena had transformed even more dramatically. No longer the frightened, half-starved girl Thomas had rescued. She'd filled out into graceful curves, her blue skin now healthy and luminous. She'd stopped wearing the mourning cloth months ago, revealing the elegant shape of her hairless head, adorned now with intricate temporary markings that she changed weekly. A Nilian coming-of-age tradition, she'd explained to them. "You're cutting those too thick," Lena observed, glancing at his work. Alex rolled his eyes. "They'll cook the same, but the texture will be wrong." She reached over, her slender fingers brushing his as she took the knife. "Like this." The casual contact sent a jolt through him that he tried desperately to ignore. It had been happening more frequently lately, these moments of awareness, of electricity when they touched. He'd catch himself watching the way she moved around their home, the way her eyes crinkled when she laughed, the subtle blue flush that colored her cheeks when she was excited. "Sorry," he mumbled, stepping back to give her space. "Still can't cook worth a damn." Lena smiled, the expression transforming her face. "You're improving. Your father couldn't even identify vegetables when I first arrived." "Speaking of Dad, he's working late again?" "Security meeting. The settlement council is concerned about the increase in smuggling activity." She handed the knife back to him. "Try again." They worked in companionable silence, moving around each other in the small kitchen with practiced ease. Over the years, their home had evolved. Thomas had added a second bathroom and expanded Lena's bedroom, officially acknowledging that her presence was permanent. The walls now displayed a mix of Earth memorabilia and salvaged Nilian artifacts that Lena had managed to collect from traders passing through. "Remember when you could barely reach the upper cabinets?" Alex teased as Lena stretched to grab spices from the top shelf. "Remember when your voice cracked every third word?" She countered, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Alex clutched his chest in mock offense. "Low blow, Lena. Low blow." Their laughter was interrupted by a sudden power fluctuation, the lights dimming before stabilizing. "Sand in the generators again," Alex sighed. "Third time this month." "The environmental shields need upgrading," Lena agreed. "Your father mentioned the council is debating the expense." The lights flickered once more, then went out completely, plunging the apartment into darkness, broken only by the blue glow of the cooking unit's emergency backup. "Perfect," Alex muttered, fumbling for the emergency lantern they kept in the kitchen drawer. His hand collided with Lena's in the darkness, their fingers tangling. Neither pulled away immediately. In the dim blue light, Alex could see Lena's eyes, wide and reflective, looking up at him. "Sorry," he whispered, not moving. "It's okay," she replied, her voice equally soft. The moment stretched between them, taut with unspoken feelings. Then the lights flickered back on, and they both stepped away, the spell broken. Dinner was quieter than usual, both stealing glances when they thought the other wasn't looking. After they'd cleaned up, Alex retreated to the common area, ostensibly to study for his engineering certification exam, but his mind kept wandering. Lena joined him later, sitting closer than usual on the couch. "I've been thinking," she said, her voice hesitant. "Dangerous pastime," he quipped automatically. She smiled but continued seriously. "On Nelia, at 17, I would be considered fully adult, eligible for bonding ceremonies." Alex's heart skipped. Bonding ceremonies. Similar to your marriage, but with more flexibility. Nilians believe in forming connections where they naturally occur, regardless of conventional expectations. "That sounds sensible," Alex managed, his mouth suddenly dry. "Humans seem more rigid in their pairings." "Not all humans," he said carefully. "Dad's pretty traditional, but Earth has all kinds of relationships." Lena nodded, studying him intently. "And what kind do you believe in, Alex?" The directness of her question caught him off guard. In the 3 years they'd lived together, they'd discussed nearly everything, except this, the unspoken attraction that had been building between them for months. "I believe in," he started, then swallowed hard. "I believe in being with someone who understands you, who sees you for who you are. Someone you trust," Lena added softly. "Yeah," he met her gaze. "Someone like that." The air between them seemed to thicken. Alex was acutely aware of how close they were sitting, of the subtle scent that was uniquely Lena, something like cinnamon and ozone. "Alex," she whispered, leaning slightly toward him, "I dash. The door slid open with a hydraulic hiss, and Thomas stepped in, looking tired but alert. They sprang apart like guilty teenagers, which Alex supposed they technically were. "Power's been fluctuating all over the settlement," Thomas reported, seemingly oblivious to the tension in the room. "Council's finally approved the shield upgrades." "That's good news," Lena said, her voice slightly higher than normal as she stood. "Are you hungry?" "I saved you dinner." Later that night, unable to sleep, Alex stood at his window, watching the sandstorm gradually subside. A soft knock at his door made him turn. Lena stood in the doorway, a silhouette in the dim hallway light. "Can we talk?" she asked. He nodded and she slipped into his room, closing the door behind her. They stood facing each other in the darkness, the only sound their quiet breathing. "I don't want to ruin what we have," she said finally. "You and your father gave me a home when I had nothing. I can't risk that." "You wouldn't be risking it," Alex insisted. "Dad respects you. He wouldn't." "It's not just about Thomas." She stepped closer. "It's about us. What if we're wrong? What if we're mistaking gratitude and friendship for something else?" Alex reached out, tentatively touching her cheek. "Is that what you think this is?" Lena leaned into his touch, her skin warm beneath his fingers. "No," she admitted, "but I'm afraid." "Me too," he confessed. "But I'm more afraid of never knowing." In the darkness of his room, with the storm finally quiet outside, they found each other. Their first kiss was hesitant, exploratory, the meeting of two worlds, two different biologies finding common ground in shared emotion. The second was less tentative, a confirmation of what they both had suspected for months. What followed was a discovery of differences and similarities. Her skin warmer than human norm, the unfamiliar contours of her body, the way she trembled at his touch. Words gave way to sighs and whispers, to the ancient language of desire that transcended species. Afterward, lying together in the darkness, Lena traced patterns on his chest. "On Nilia, this would have been our bonding night," she murmured. Alex pulled her closer. "Then consider us bonded." The morning after brought a new awareness between Alex and Lena. Their eyes met across the breakfast table with secret smiles, fingers brushing accidentally as they passed dishes. Thomas, absorbed in reviewing security reports on his data pad, seemed oblivious to the charged atmosphere. "Environmental shields should be back to full capacity by midday," Thomas announced, setting down his mug. "Council's authorized emergency repairs after last night's failure." "That's good," Alex replied, trying to sound normal, despite the way his heart raced when Lena's knee briefly touched his under the table. Thomas glanced up, his gaze sharpening. "You two seem cheerful this morning." Alex nearly choked on his breakfast. Lena's blue skin flushed a deeper shade as she busied herself with clearing dishes. "Just glad the storm's over," Alex managed. Thomas studied them both for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he stood, gathering his security gear. "I'll be late tonight. Don't wait up." After he left, Alex released a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "That was close." Lena leaned against the counter, her large eyes troubled. "We need to tell him, Alex." "I know." He rose and moved to her, drawing her into his arms. "But not yet. Let's just have this for ourselves a little while." She rested her head against his chest, the smooth curve of her scalp warm beneath his chin. "Nilians don't keep bonds secret. It's considered disrespectful to the community." "This isn't Nilia," he reminded her gently, "and Dad isn't exactly the community." For 2 weeks, they maintained their secret, stealing moments when Thomas worked late, exchanging glances across rooms, discovering each other in ways that bridged their biological differences. Lena taught Alex Nilian bonding rituals, including the intricate temporary markings she painted on his skin with her fingertips, invisible except under certain light frequencies. Alex introduced her to human courtship traditions, bringing her wildflowers from the settlement's hydroponic gardens and playing old earth music that had been his mother's favorite. Their caution, however, couldn't last forever in such close quarters. Thomas returned early from a shift one evening, entering silently through the side door, an old habit from his mercenary days. He found them in the common area, Alex teaching Lena to dance to a slow melody, their bodies pressed close, her head tilted up to his, lost in each other. "Well," Thomas said from the doorway, "this is new." They sprang apart like they'd been shocked. Alex instinctively stepped slightly in front of Lena, a protective gesture that didn't go unnoticed by his father. "Dad," Alex started, his voice steadier than he felt. "We were going to tell you." Thomas's expression remained neutral as he set down his gear and crossed to the kitchen unit. He poured himself a drink before turning back to them. "How long?" "2 weeks," Lena answered, moving to stand beside Alex rather than behind him. "Since the night of the storm." Thomas nodded slowly, taking a measured sip. "Sit down. Both of you." They complied, perching tensely on the edge of the couch, while Thomas took the chair opposite. The silence stretched uncomfortably until Thomas finally spoke. "When I brought Lena home, she was a child. Same as you, Alex." His voice was calm, matter of fact. "I never expected this, but I suppose I should have." "Are you angry?" Alex asked. Thomas considered the question. "No." "Surprised? Yes. Concerned? Definitely." "We're not children anymore," Alex pointed out. "No, you're not," Thomas agreed, "but you're still young, and this is complicated." Lena, who had been quiet, finally spoke. "On Nilia, bonds form where there is connection, regardless of origin. It's considered a natural evolution of shared experience." Thomas's eyes softened slightly as he looked at her. "This isn't Nelia, Lena. Humans can be protective of their children, territorial." "Is that what you're feeling?" she asked directly. "Territorial?" The bluntness of her question seemed to catch Thomas off guard. He let out a short laugh. "Maybe a little. Mostly I'm feeling old." Some of the tension eased from the room. Alex reached for Lena's hand, holding it openly now. "We didn't plan this, Dad. It just happened." "Few important things in life are planned," Thomas said, a distant look crossing his face. "Your mother and I certainly weren't. Military transport breakdown stranded us both on the same outpost for 3 weeks." It was rare for Thomas to mention their mother voluntarily. Alex leaned forward. "You never told me that." "Never seemed relevant." Thomas drained his glass. "Point is, I understand how these things happen, but I need to know this is serious, for both of you." "It is," they answered in unison, then exchanged small smiles. Thomas studied them, his weathered face thoughtful. "Lena, would you give Alex and me a moment?" She nodded, squeezing Alex's hand before rising gracefully and retreating to her room. When the door closed, Thomas leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "She's been through hell, Alex. Lost everything. Survived on her own in a galaxy that's not kind to refugees." "I know that," Alex said defensively. "Do you? Because if this is just exploration for you, you need to end it now. She deserves better than to be someone's alien experience." Alex felt a flash of anger. "That's not what this is. I love her." The words hung in the air between them, the first time Alex had said them aloud. Thomas's expression softened. "Then treat her right. Remember, she sees the world differently than we do. Nilian bonding isn't casual. It's deeper than marriage in some ways." "How do you know about Nilian bonding?" Alex asked, surprised. Thomas's mouth quirked in a half-smile. "I've lived with her for 3 years too, son. I listen when she talks about her culture." He stood, clapping Alex on the shoulder. "Just be careful, both of you. The settlement's gotten more tolerant, but there are still those who look sideways at mixed relationships. Like the Drakari, among others." Thomas's expression darkened. "I've heard rumors of trouble brewing with some of the more conservative factions. Keep your eyes open." Later, when Alex told Lena about their conversation, she seemed relieved. "He's protective of you," she observed. "It's very human." "Of both of us," Alex corrected. "He thinks of you as family too." Lena smiled, tracing the line of his jaw with her fingertips. "Then we are fortunate." On Nelia, family bonds were considered as sacred as mating bonds. "Is that what we have?" Alex asked softly. "A mating bond?" Her large eyes held his, serious and certain. "We have something that transcends both our world's definitions. Something new." He pulled her close, marveling at how perfectly she fit against him, despite their different biologies. Something worth protecting. 7 years later, the aroma of exotic spices wafted through the bustling restaurant as Lena moved gracefully between tables, greeting regular customers with a warm smile that would have been unimaginable to the frightened girl Thomas had rescued a decade ago. At 24, she had blossomed into a striking woman, her blue skin adorned with permanent markings that celebrated her Nilian heritage, while her confident demeanor reflected her adopted human family's influence. "The special is exceptional today," she told an elderly Phasian couple, her once whispered voice now melodious and assured. "Alex modified the heating elements to better handle the volcanic salts." "That human of yours is quite the engineer," the male Phasian clicked appreciatively. "The whole settlement benefits from his innovations." Lena's eyes softened at the mention of Alex. "I'll tell him you said so." Blue Hearth had started as a small food stall 3 years ago, using recipes Lena had preserved from her homeworld, combined with techniques she'd learned from Thomas. Now it occupied a prime location in Helios Station's central market, drawing customers from across the settlement and even from ships passing through. The restaurant's success had allowed them to move from Thomas's modest concrete extension to a larger home on the settlement's more established eastern quarter. As the lunch rush wound down, Lena retreated to the kitchen where her 2 Drakari assistants were cleaning up. Once fearful of the scaled species after her first encounter in Helios, she now employed several younger Drakari who had broken from their community's increasingly isolationist stance. "Marin, Tash, you can finish early today," she told them. "The storm warning means we'll close for dinner." The younger Drakari, Marin, looked up with concern. "Will you be safe walking home, Lena?" Some of the elders were speaking against mixed-species businesses at the gathering yesterday. Lena's expression tightened slightly. "I'll be fine. Alex is coming to escort me." As if summoned by her words, the door chimed and Alex strode in, his tall frame filling the doorway. At 24, he had grown into his father's build while maintaining his mother's thoughtful eyes. Dust from the engineering bay clung to his work clothes, and a smudge of grease marked his cheek. "Ready to weather another storm?" he asked, leaning down to kiss her forehead, a gesture that still drew disapproving looks from some of the more conservative settlement residents. "Always," she replied, reaching up to wipe the grease from his face, "though I'm more concerned about the storm brewing in the council chambers than the one outside." Alex's expression darkened. "Dad sent a message. The emergency session isn't going well. The Drakari elders are pushing for stricter segregation policies." "Because of the harvester rumors?" Lena asked quietly, dismissing her assistants with a nod. "Partly. They're claiming refugees attract trouble." Alex's jaw tightened. "Dad's fighting it, but the fear is spreading." They secured the restaurant against the approaching dust storm and stepped outside. The settlement's environmental shields were already activating, creating a shimmering dome above them that would filter the worst of the storm while allowing regulated airflow. Alex's engineering team had installed the upgraded system 2 years ago, one of several improvements that had earned him respect even among those who disapproved of his relationship with Lena. As they walked through the market, Lena noticed the stares, some friendly, others decidedly not. A group of Drakari merchants watched them pass, their scaled faces impassive but their postures hostile. "Harvester bait," one muttered just loudly enough to be heard. Alex tensed, but Lena squeezed his hand. "Not worth it," she whispered. The slur wasn't new. Since rumors of harvester collective activity in nearby systems had reached Helios 3 months ago, old prejudices had resurfaced. Some blamed refugees like Lena for attracting the planet-consuming entities, as if the harvesters followed survivors rather than resource-rich worlds. They had nearly reached their home when a public announcement echoed through the settlement's communication system. "Attention all residents. The Council has confirmed reports of harvester scout ships detected in the Proxima sector. This is not a cause for alarm, but increased security measures will be implemented effective immediately. All non-essential travel between settlements is restricted until further notice." Lena froze, her hand tightening painfully around Alex's. The blood drained from her face, turning her blue skin almost gray. "Hey," Alex said gently, pulling her into his arms. "It's okay. They're still 3 systems away. We're safe." "That's what we thought on Nilia," she whispered against his chest. "They were systems away until suddenly they weren't." Inside their home, Thomas was waiting, his security uniform dusty from the approaching storm. At 52, his hair had grayed at the temples and lines had deepened around his eyes, but he still carried himself with the alertness of a soldier. "You heard?" he asked without preamble. Alex nodded, guiding Lena to a chair. How bad is it, really? Bad enough that the council's not taking chances, Thomas replied, but not as bad as the rumors. 1 scout ship, possibly 2. Standard resource assessment pattern. Like Nelia, Lena said, her voice hollow. They always send scouts first. Thomas knelt before her, taking her hands in his weathered ones. This isn't Nelia, Lena. Helios has defenses, allies. We're not isolated. And we have warning, Alex added. Time to prepare. Lena looked between them, these human men who had become her family. The Drakari elders are already blaming refugees. It will only get worse. Let them talk, Thomas said firmly. You're as much a part of this settlement as anyone. More than most, you've built something here that brings people together. Not everyone sees it that way, she countered. I heard what they called me in the market today. Thomas's expression hardened. Who? It doesn't matter, Alex interrupted. What matters is what we do now. Dad, what's the council planning? As Thomas outlined the settlement's defense preparations, Lena's thoughts drifted to the memory crystal hidden in their bedroom, the last remnant of her world. She had shown it to Alex countless times over the years, but there were recordings she had never shared. Data about the harvesters' attack patterns, weaknesses her people had discovered too late to save themselves. There's something I need to tell you both, she said suddenly, interrupting Thomas's explanation of evacuation protocols. Something about the harvesters I've never shared. Both men turned to her, surprised by the determination in her voice. Nilians discovered a vulnerability in the harvester ships, she continued, a frequency that disrupts their navigation systems. It's in my memory crystal. Data my father encoded before putting me on the evacuation ship. I've never shown it to anyone because I was afraid it would make me a target if the wrong people knew I had it. Why tell us now? Thomas asked quietly. Lena met his gaze steadily. Because I won't watch another world die. Not this one. Not our home. Alex reached for her hand, his eyes filled with a mixture of pride and concern. We'll take it to the council together. First thing tomorrow. As the storm howled outside their secure home, the 3 of them huddled around the data terminal, examining the encoded information from Lena's crystal. For the first time since the rumors began, Lena felt something other than fear, a fierce determination to protect the life and family she had found against all odds. Later that night, as she and Alex lay together in their bedroom, the storm raging against the reinforced windows, Lena traced the contours of his face in the darkness. I'm afraid, she admitted, not just of the harvesters, of what happens if we succeed. What do you mean? Alex asked, drawing her closer. The Drakari already resent me. If a Nilian refugee becomes responsible for saving the settlement? She shook her head. Their pride won't allow it. Alex kissed her gently. Then we'll face that together too. One battle at a time. As they found comfort in each other's arms, the familiar dance of their bodies a reminder of the bond they had forged across species and tragedy, Lena allowed herself to hope. For their future, for their home, for the family they might someday build if they survived the coming storm. Dawn broke over Helios Station with an eerie calm. The dust storm had passed, but the settlement remained quiet, citizens preparing for a threat far more devastating than any weather phenomenon. In the council chambers, Thomas stood beside Alex and Lena as they presented the data from the memory crystal to the assembled leaders. The frequency disrupts their navigation systems, Lena explained, her voice steady despite the hostile glares from the Drakari elders. If we modify the settlement's communication array, we can broadcast it when the scouts approach. The Human Council chairman nodded thoughtfully. And this worked on Nelia? Partially, Lena admitted. My people discovered it too late to implement fully. But the tests showed promise. The scout ships became disoriented. Their harvesting equipment malfunctioned. Convenient that you've kept this information secret until now, Elder Krath, the senior Drakari representative, hissed. Perhaps you've been waiting for your harvester allies to arrive. Thomas stepped forward, his hand instinctively moving to the weapon at his hip. Watch yourself, Krath. The chairman raised a hand for calm. We don't have time for baseless accusations. Engineer Clark, can you modify our systems as Lena suggests? Alex nodded confidently. I'll need access to the main array in about 12 hours. Granted. Begin immediately. As they left the chambers, Elder Krath and several Drakari followers blocked their path. This doesn't end here, Krath warned, his reptilian eyes fixed on Lena. The crystal belongs in proper hands, Drakari hands. We were defending worlds while Nilians were still evolving from pond scum. Step aside, Thomas ordered, his voice carrying the authority of his security position. The Drakari retreated, but their threatening postures made their intentions clear. Alex pulled Lena closer as they walked toward the communication array control center. I don't trust them, he murmured. Neither do I, Thomas agreed. I'll post guards at the array while you work. For the next 10 hours, Alex labored to modify the settlement systems, Lena assisting with the precise calibrations required for the Nilian frequency. Thomas coordinated with security teams as reports came in of the Harvester Scouts changing course, now unmistakably heading toward Helios. They were nearly finished when the alarms blared. Security breach in Section 4, announced the automated system. Unauthorized access to residential quarters. Thomas's communicator buzzed. Sir, it's the Drakari. 6 of them broke into your family's home. They're searching for something. The crystal's backup, Lena gasped. I kept a copy hidden there. Thomas was already moving. Finish the modifications, he ordered Alex. I'll handle this. Not alone, Alex countered. Lena can complete the calibrations. I'm coming with you. Lena nodded, her fingers flying over the controls. Go. I'll be safe here with the guards. Father and son raced through the settlement, Thomas's security credentials giving them priority access through the emergency lockdown zones. When they reached their home, they found the door forced open and sounds of destruction inside. Remember your training, Thomas murmured, drawing his weapon. Non-lethal, if possible. They entered to find the Drakari ransacking their home, tearing apart furniture and smashing through walls. Security forces, Thomas announced. Stand down immediately. Elder Krath emerged from the bedroom, holding a small box triumphantly. Too late, human. The crystal is ours now. The Drakari will save this settlement, not some refugee scum. That's not your call to make, Alex said, stepping forward, and that's not your property. Property? Krath laughed harshly. This is survival. The Nilian has compromised the data. We can't trust her kind. But you expect us to trust you, Thomas countered. The same people who've been spreading hate since we arrived? Enough talk, one of the younger Drakari snarled, lunging toward them. What followed was chaos. Thomas's years of combat experience meeting the natural strength and aggression of the Drakari. Alex fought alongside his father, using the defensive techniques Thomas had taught him since childhood. They were outnumbered but not outmatched. Human adaptability and quick thinking, giving them an edge against the stronger aliens. When it ended, 4 Drakari lay unconscious. One was nursing a broken arm, and Elder Krath found himself pinned against the wall by Thomas's forearm. The crystal, Thomas demanded. Krath reluctantly surrendered the box. This isn't over. Actually, it is, came a new voice from the doorway. The council chairman stood there with 2 security officers. Elder Krath, you and your followers are hereby removed from the council pending criminal charges, breaking into private residences and assaulting security personnel during a planetary emergency. The Drakari will need new representation. As the Drakari were led away, Alex examined the backup crystal. It's intact. Not that we need it now. Lena's almost finished with the modifications. Then let's get back to her, Thomas said, surveying their destroyed home with resignation. This can wait. They returned to find Lena putting the finishing touches on the array modifications, her blue hands steady despite the crisis. When she saw them, relief flooded her face. It's done, she announced. The frequency is calibrated and ready to broadcast. The scouts should be in range within the hour. The next 60 minutes passed in tense anticipation. Settlement residents gathered in public spaces, watching the approach of the Harvester Scouts on the large monitoring screens. When the ships entered the outer atmosphere, Alex activated the modified array. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Harvester vessels began to wobble, their sleek forms suddenly ungainly as the frequency disrupted their navigation systems. One crashed into the other, both spiraling away from the settlement in obvious distress before disappearing beyond the horizon in twin explosions that lit up the distant mountains. The settlement erupted in cheers. In the control center, Alex lifted Lena off her feet in a jubilant embrace, while Thomas accepted congratulations from the chairman. The collective will send more. Lena cautioned when the celebration quieted. They always do. And we'll be ready, the chairman assured her. Your information will be shared with all settlements in the sector. Humanity has been looking for an edge against the harvesters for decades. You've given us that. And then 3 days later, as they sorted through the wreckage of their home, Lena suddenly swayed, her hand flying to her stomach. Lena! Alex was at her side instantly. What's wrong? I don't know, she murmured, looking confused. I've been feeling strange since yesterday. Dizzy, warm. Thomas, who had been helping them salvage what they could, studied her with concern. Maybe you should see the medical officer. The settlement's medical center was quiet in the aftermath of the harvester incident. Dr. Elaine McCoy, one of the few other humans in Helios, examined Lena thoroughly while Alex waited anxiously. When the doctor finally emerged from the examination room, her expression was one of astonishment. Well, Alex demanded, is she all right? Dr. McCoy shook her head in wonder. She's pregnant, Alex. That's impossible, he stammered. Human and Nilian biology is apparently more compatible than we thought, the doctor finished. I've confirmed it 3 different ways. You're going to be a father. Alex sat down hard, his mind reeling. When he entered Lena's room, she was sitting up, her hands resting protectively over her abdomen, her expression a mixture of fear and joy. The doctor says it's impossible, she whispered. Alex took her hands in his. Apparently, we specialize in the impossible. A human Nilian child, she marveled, the first of its kind. Are you happy? He asked, searching her face. Her smile was radiant. More than I ever thought possible. But Alex, what will people say after everything that's happened? They'll say our child is a symbol of hope, came Thomas's voice from the doorway. He entered, his weathered face soft with emotion. The first child born of 2 worlds, one destroyed, one fighting to survive. If that's not a sign of better things to come, I don't know what is. 6 months later, the rebuilt Blue Hearth restaurant hosted a special celebration. The newly elected Drakari representative, Marin, Lena's former assistant, raised a glass in a formal toast. To Lena and Alex, she announced to the gathered crowd of humans and aliens alike, whose union has blessed our settlement with new life and new hope. Lena, her pregnancy now clearly visible beneath her ceremonial Nilian robes, smiled as Alex kissed her cheek. Across the room, Thomas watched with pride. The memory crystal that had saved them all now displayed prominently in a special case, a reminder of what had been lost and what had been gained. Later that night, as they walked home under Helios's star-filled sky, Alex placed his hand over Lena's rounded belly, feeling the strong kicks of their daughter. I've been thinking about names, he said softly. Oh? Lena leaned into him, her warmth a constant comfort. What about Nelia? To honor what was lost, but also what continues. Tears shimmered in Lena's large blue eyes. It's perfect. As they reached the threshold of their new home, larger and sturdier than the old one, with a kitchen specially designed for Lena's cooking, she paused and looked up at the man who had gone from childhood friend to life partner. I don't talk much about how lucky I feel, she said, echoing the words that had brought them together a decade ago. But I can show you every day. Alex smiled and pulled her close. Works for me.